This Charlie Brown cup of coffee and got a lot of the shopping done, a lot of the holiday parties out of the way, and this is kind of the last push. The chimney businesses, it kind of slows down on the phone calls right now. There's a lot of work. It's a little different this year. I think every year you could probably say that's different than other years, but it's finally going to get cold here in Nashville, and so we're finally getting cold weather. It's stayed warm longer than ever. And I got my first Facebook user. Hello. I wish I could see who it was. Tell me who you are. Yeah, this two-way conversation. We're going to have a gentleman on tonight. I had not met him before. And we talked a little bit through Facebook Messenger. And I thought he'd be a great guest for the show. And younger guy that is working on growing a business, generational business, and we're going to bring him on. Hey, Justin. That being said, SureFire, we probably will not do one next week after Christmas. I'm going to be traveling, going to see my family in Indiana, so I will not be able to do the show. Just to recap, we put out about 24 new courses on SureFire this year. So if you had been on it in the previous years and haven't seen it, there's quite a bit. We put on at least 2 to 3 new courses a month. Sometimes they're specific based. Sometimes they are recordings from other events. But I had recorded my Blue Collar Gold University and on a high definition format, or kind of higher end cameras and scripting and lighting and stuff. So I'm actually going to release that at the first of the year for because people come to my business and we go through Blue Collar University, and I don't advertise it much because I love it, but I'm too busy for it right now. But I love doing it. It's a 2-day course, and I just work directly with companies and their people. It's a kind of like a one-on-one thing. And I've got a few more people lined up I do probably 6 of them a year, but I do a lot of them. I like them, but I recorded it. So if you have interest in that, I'm going to have that out. But so with that being said, I want to bring on Lewis, and we have quite a few visitors starting to join us. So thank you guys for bringing on. Hey, Lewis.
Hey.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for reaching out. Eric Nunez says, Merry Christmas, Mark. Lewis is a top-notch guy. I had the pleasure of spending a work day together learning from each other.
Oh, yeah. Eric, man, he does top-notch work.
He does. He's a good one, man. He's a good egg. I've known him for quite a while. And you ought to see him do what is it? What is it you did, Eric, in Louisville? It wasn't Lil Wayne. It was what song did you break it down? You'll know what I'm talking about, because I couldn't believe this. He can rap really well and sing. I mean, he's got the full. I mean, he goes hard when he goes. So let's see. Oh, it's Justin's asking if that's creosote on your forehead.
Oh, you know it.
That's the real deal, baby.
Oh no, I get dirty. Every day. That's the fun.
This is it. Eric said, Little John. That was it. To the windows. This was it. Oh. He broke this down hard at the Louisville convention, and it was like the end of the night, and man, he went off, and I was impressed. It has stuck with me 5 years later. So thank you, Eric, for being part of the show tonight. But to the windows, yeah, he's got that down. But anyway, well, thanks for joining us. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell everybody about yourself. I know you had mentioned you're second generation, and there's a lot more of you guys starting to come around and starting to build big businesses. So tell me about your journey.
Yeah, so I grew up in the chimney business. My mom and dad actually were business folk. They purchased a chimney company from a small mom and pop here in Portland called Portland Chimney.
Right.
And my dad is kind of a business builder. He's a great manager, a great organizer. He finds out, the pieces of the puzzle, and he gets everybody in their perfect spot.
Right.
So I kind of grew up in that environment. He had me putting flyers out from door to door on a little Razor scooter, when I was
really
13, 14 years old.
You know,
And
guerrilla marketing at its finest.
guerrilla marketing, I mean, he taught me economics from the ground up.
Yeah.
And little $89 flyer, chimney sweeps. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was great. He built the business up, pretty big. And I think I was about 20. And there was a accident on one of his job sites. One of his employees had an accident with a circular saw,
Mm.
and it developed into this big, huge suit. And he actually found out that there was a lack of insurance coverage in an indemnity clause.
Mm.
And he said, Lewis, you have to go start your own business. I don't think, we're going to make it through.
Can't get out of it. Yeah.
And so I basically had to start my own business from nothing. I couldn't really get any help from him because the courts would view that as me just being the same entity.
Right. Well, do
Uh,
you mind going into that just a little bit? How does and if you don't want to talk about that, that's fine too, but how does an accident on a job site with a circular saw lead to down that road? Was it all about having the right insurance that your dad
so
needed to have in place, or how does it go that far?
it actually had specifically to do with hiring the employee from an employment agency.
Mm.
And there was a special document that was an indemnity document that said we would hold harmless the employment agency. So there was legal language in there where they were not covered. And so they, had to defend their company for probably a 4-year period, spent almost $500,000 just defending and paying attorney's fees, to do this court process. And then at the end of the thing, the guy, um, the attorney just kind of got in his ear. It was like it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And at the end, he barely got his wages on the settlement. So a
Really?
whole bunch of just profit for the attorneys, in my opinion. But it goes to show you need to do your due diligence and have good insurance and umbrella policies and owners and officers policies,
Yeah.
not just general liability policies.
I mean, as a learning lesson, to your point, a lot of times people talk about insurance and they want to go with the cheapest way to get insurance. And that's all fine until you really need it, until you have got a catastrophe on your hands. And I know a couple other business guys who have had an insurance claim that something fell between the cracks and it got to them like that. And I'm sorry that you went through that, but I always, to me, want to try to learn lessons too. And a guy like you tells me about what happened to your dad, I want to know, help me get wisdom before I have experience, you know?
Well, it was probably one of the most, I mean, invaluable lessons that I had the opportunity of watching because it taught me exactly what not to do.
Right.
It gave me a set of
Yeah.
eyes and attention to detail like no other because I thought I was gonna just you know be the business owner. I thought I was gonna buy the business from him or he was gonna give it to me or whatever. And that wasn't the case. He fortunately made it through. They got through, and they're still in business today. And I work with them. I mean, well, if I get buried, I can subcontract with them, and
That's
and
good. Yeah.
so they made it through. But I really think it was kind of like survival for
Yeah.
me. And I had a kid on the way at a very young age. I was like, just 20 years old. I wanted to buy a house and have all these things, and it was clear that chimney sweeping would take me there if I did what, he taught me on how to grow a business and just simple guerrilla marketing and word of mouth and
Right.
stuff like
Do good
that.
work. Yeah.
Do high quality work. And
Yeah.
that it's funny you should say that. So my dad was about making good profit, and there were areas that I noticed that I felt could have been done in a more premium way. And so as I built my business, I built it with that kind of ideal that I was going to be the premium option for my area. I was
Yeah.
going to do things in a very kind of like architectural pleasing, historical restoration type of a thing. And as I compare myself to, the competitors in the area, it's like their work, the mortar doesn't match. The bricks are the wrong size.
Hmm.
They're putting too small of a flue tile on the, it's like there's all these little teeny tiny things that, a mason maybe typically wouldn't know if he didn't have like, a CSIA certification to calculate a flue liner volume
Right.
or those types of things. And so I, since very early on, I would have experiences with him that were like kind of quality control related experiences with homeowners and roofers and flashing and different things like that. And I was like, that's not the type of business I want to do. I want to offer only quality. It's like if
Yeah.
they're not willing to do the job the right way, I don't want that customer.
Right. Yeah,
So
that can be a tough line, because sometimes you got to do some work to pay some bills, and it's not all of it. And I mean, I'm not saying you make that thing, especially as you grow and get larger and you get more secure. You can turn them down a lot more work, and it's not so painful. Early on, you got to like pick up all the scraps to get the business going, and uh,
totally,
but I can
totally.
respect that. So tell me about the Portland. We came out to Portland a couple years ago with the convention. Came out there, and I was out there, and it seemed like to me that the Portland chimney sweeps were like, and the Oregon chimney sweeps were actually like, it's almost like we were mixing not oil and water, but it was funny how you guys do a lot of things differently in that area versus kind of on the national scale. It's like you guys were on a little island out there. And when we came, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but we kind of got that feeling like, because you're a lot of the stuff in chimneys is in the Northeast, right? And in the, and so you guys are left out a lot of times, and it's hard to get the national convention all the way on that one coast when the majority of the business is on the other coast. But it was a great event. It was your guys' 40th anniversary as well as NCSG. I forgot that Oregon formulated the same time as the national. Is that right?
Yeah, it's equally as old as as the
Yeah.
National Guild.
And now you're the president of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I joined that organization, and it was just incredible. Like the mentorship that I experienced from the elders was just, it was like they just gifted me all of their secrets.
You
And I,
said you were like quite young, like 15 or really young.
well, when I went to the OCSA, I was like 19, 20.
Okay.
I started, doing stuff with my dad when I was about 14. But
Mhm.
when I went there and started to really read like the NFPA 211 and understand the code of fireplaces and chimneys, I went there, and there's just a whole bunch of guys who, are right on the edge of retirement, 60s, 70s, some guys in their 80s, and just like such humble people. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of them, aren't like typical installer contractor type chimney sweeps. They're really just chimney sweeps.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
noticed
so
that.
that's kind of the main thing, is that most of them are just chimney sweeps and don't do a lot of install and don't do a lot of repair. And so that's kind of why you see, a lot of repair and installation on the East Coast, where it's more saturated, and then over here, there's not enough sweeps.
Do you have freeze thaw damage in your area like we do? Or I've
Oh
heard
yeah.
you don't. Oh, you do?
Oh yeah. That's the number one thing. Freeze thaw damage on masonry chimneys that just get waterlogged and then
Yeah.
freeze and crack. And so our number one thing is probably roof lineup rebuilds, because
Yeah.
everything from the roof lineup freezes and shatters.
So you said you run about five. How many trucks, or how many trucks do you run now, and what's the plan? Where are you going with this?
So yeah, so when I branched off, when I had to start my own company, it was me out of a Ford E150, and it had 399,000 miles on it. And I thought it was going to go to 400, but it went to 300.
Yeah, that's
And I was like, well, how many times has that happened?
funny. Right, exactly. Got a million miles
So
on it.
I beat that thing into the ground. My first year sweeping chimneys, I think I did 90,000 and I was only charging $89 a sweep. So I was just nonstop as hard as
Fast as you
I
can.
could go. Now, we just purchased our 8th truck. So we got 8 Sprinter vans out there,
Nice.
and eight jobs going on every single day. I still actually do every single inspection,
Mhm.
and teach the homeowner exactly what's gone wrong, how it can be fixed. Do they want wood? Do they want gas? Do they want pellet? I'm the only guy in Portland who is literally like a one-stop shop general contractor,
Mhm.
because we will do a roof if they need a roof. We will do gutters. We will paint the whole house.
Oh, wow.
We will install gas, pellet, wood. We will retrofit. We will tear an entire fireplace down to the ground and rebuild it to seismic standards.
Yeah.
So I'm really more of a general contractor. That's the hat really that I wear most of the time,
With a
uh,
specialty in fireplaces and chimneys.
with a specialty in fireplaces and chimneys. So
Did
my
you
goal.
feel you
Go.
said seismic, did you feel any of that earthquake that was out there?
Mm,
Did you hear about it
no,
this morning? It's like a 6.4 out there, I think around San Francisco, 75 miles off San Francisco.
I
No?
didn't feel anything.
Okay. So, anyway, go ahead. So that's where you are now. What do you want to do? What's the plan?
So I got a really good team. I got some amazing guys. Over the years, you kind of weed out the bad and keep the good.
Yeah.
And now I've got these core group of guys that are just such amazing craftsmen. Like, and I'm very picky. Like, we only do top tier, high quality work, and so we have a backlog. Like, all my crews are 2 months out, all around, nonstop,
Mhm.
and I only do 3 appointments a day, and I keep 8 trucks busy.
Right.
So my next thing is, you know, kind of innovating the company. I've got a bunch of software and things like that I really need to take full advantage of and train some of the guys coming up to be more of an inspector, you know. And I hate being in the office, but I know I'm gonna need to be in the office more.
Yeah, you'll end up being the bottleneck.
Yeah, so that's kind of the next evolution, is developing the business so that I don't have to do any sales. Um, and yeah, I mean, I do a lot of email generated estimates too, because there's just so many people calling my phone. Like, I literally can't even get to them all.
Mhm.
And so I have to have, $289 for an inspection price, and I have people prepay. I
Yeah,
have people prepay before, like, I won't even go unless they prepay,
I like
because,
that. How's that
well,
work for you?
it works great. I mean, it qualifies the lead.
It sure
Like,
does.
it
Yeah.
qualifies it.
Well, and
And so,
also if they prepay it, like this year, we had quite a few cancellations, and like right at the last second, because they called a bunch of people. They went and booked me, but then whatever. But I really considered going to that prepay thing because I had it happen. I had somebody working on a appliance, and to get them out there, like, okay, it's 209, whatever the price was, and like, how you gonna be paying that? I said credit card. It's like, okay, I'll take the number now. And I'm like, oh, I guess you will. I didn't have a problem with it. I actually liked it. So that's how long you been doing that?
so that's since COVID, because of, the whole contactless payment transaction thing.
Mhm.
That's when we implemented that. And it,
I like
it
that.
really creates an efficiency as well, because so much time at the end of the appointment is spent trying to juggle, oh, how are you going to pay? Are you
That's a
writing it?
good point. Yeah, I like
And
that.
so I was able to just really, like, manage my time better.
Yeah, I
And
like that. I like that reason too. I've never heard anybody say it that way. Just juggling, get the credit card out, the technician doing all that's already done. That's a
yep,
great, thank you. That's a great idea. We've got a
yeah,
couple comments.
streamline. Like it
Yeah.
just totally streamlined the
Totally. Yeah.
appointment,
Yeah.
to the point where I could get in and out very, very quickly. Because
Yep.
some days, there's like a whole bunch of people in one zip code, and so I'll have 5 or 6, 7 appointments, and it really helps out on those days where I just don't have the time to, you know, walk through every single detail. But what I end up doing is I wake up at the crack of dawn or before dawn. Wake up at like 3 in the morning.
That's the butt crack of dawn.
Yeah. So I wake up at 3 in the morning, and my inspections and my estimates are just so well drafted and articulated that they compare it to any of my competitors, and it's just like night and day. They're just like,
Mhm.
wow,
Mhm.
this guy knows what he's talking about. And they
Mhm.
compare it to other people, and they're like, what?
Right.
So, yeah, it's all about just educating the customer while you're there, teaching them as much as you can possibly teach them with what you can see with your eyes, and then reinforcing that with the email. So I'll send one email with the inspection report, one email with the estimate, and another email with photos. So
Right.
I'm hitting their inbox 3 times. They can't ignore me.
Mhm.
And then follow up, obviously. But yeah, that's how one guy does all that volume.
I've got a couple comments. Merry Christmas, Mark Stoner. Hello, Merry Christmas to you. Also, so this is exactly where we are. A lot of people have canceled. Would you ever go back, or going forward, are you staying prepaid? So,
Yeah, we're staying prepaid because really it just streamlines the appointment. It really qualifies the lead. Um, and it tells you that the customer is looking for quality, not the cheap fix, And so I spun my wheels a lot early on with all those leads that were $89 leads, and they were people that couldn't even afford a chimney cat.
right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
I like the prepaid part, because especially when people cancel on you, and a lot of people say, hey, just move stuff up. And sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't work. And you got a big gap in your day, especially if you had a big install. Now we take deposits, but you can't, it just depends on that kind of cancellation. But cancellation for service, that happens a bunch. And to me, people are doing it more often. And I think that's a great solution for that.
yeah,
Did somebody else?
prepay, and then if they really cancel, you could do like a $25 cancellation policy so that at least your costs are covered for your secretary in the office.
Yeah, yeah. And then JJ says 3 emails. I'd fire you before you started.
You're not my customer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's not. He's very few people's customer, except if you live in Croatia, and he's your customer. Great guy, but funny too. He's like that. But that being said, I think everybody has to find their niche. Like for me, I don't want to do too much education of the customer unless I can tell they want it. Like I'll
Right.
give you an example, just to do me for, like, if an HVAC guy came here and wanted to tell me all about my HVAC system, I'm personally don't not interested in that. I don't want to learn about it. I just want to know that when I hit the button, the thing works, and it doesn't, I call you. And that's how I am. So I think I had a technician one time who goes, Mark, before I leave the house, I want them to know everything that I know about chimneys. I'm like, oh, hell no, don't do that to them. Now, if they want to know it, and you have that relationship with the customer, yes, you can absolutely educate them, and they are like, wow, Lewis is my man. So you have to read the customer. So like you said, JJ's not your customer.
Yeah.
But I think
So,
it's a good
it's
point.
like there has to be a reach,
Yeah.
right? There's visual and social cues where it's like, you can tell right off the bat if they're interested or not.
Right.
You can tell right off the bat if they can afford it or not.
Yeah.
That
Well,
comes that well
sometimes you
that
can.
that
Yeah.
comes with a lot of experience in the field.
Yeah.
Eventually over the years you develop an eye for these little different things, and
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
you know how to manage your time. But if they're asking questions, that's the best thing.
It is. Yeah. We always say if you're talking, you're selling. If they're talking, they're buying. Um, so tell me about the guild. Tell me about what you do for them. What
Yeah,
they well, actually, I'm sorry. Let me back up. I didn't hear where you're going. Like, what's the plan for the business? You told me on the pre-interview about building a space. Like, what
yeah,
do you want to see happen in the next 5 years?
yeah. So I have an industrial property that I'm developing, and the plan is to build a warehouse that I can use for my business use, but also have other units that I can rent out and create, cash flow, income generating property.
Love it.
Um,
Yes.
that's kind of my next thing. I got a lot of other properties. I have 4 rental properties that are really good investments that are cash positive,
Yeah.
and stuff. So I've been a real estate investor since I was 20, um,
Nice.
and
Yeah, I wish I got into it earlier for sure.
yeah, I mean
Your
it's
dad was, I think you said your dad was kind of taught you that or kind of helped
exactly,
you focus
yeah.
down that road. Yeah.
He gave me a book when I was real young, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Love
um,
that.
and
Fundamental book.
yeah, it gives you such a fundamental understanding of the concept of money and how money
Yes.
and currency can be leveraged.
Yep.
And real estate is the best thing for any chimney sweep or anybody to invest in, but chimney sweep specifically because you have a network of people who are buying and selling real estate. So realtors, call roofers, chimney sweeps, everybody, and you have your you have your finger on the pulse of the real estate market. Like you have the opportunity to go to all these houses and see, oh, well, how much is this house going for? How many square feet is this house?
Yep.
Is this neighborhood more expensive than that neighborhood? So just by doing the chimney sweeping service, you have an opportunity to absorb a lot more information than just chimneys. And I guess
Mhm.
that's kind of what my dad gave me eyes for early on, is that he taught me how to spot value in many different areas.
Yeah.
So over the years, it's like
Good lessons. That's what parents need to do.
yeah, I mean, I had customers that called me for a chimney cleaning, and I bought their house because I was like, "Why are you, why are you fixing up the chimney?" Well, we're getting it ready to sell, and I was like, "Well, don't do that. Just sell it to me."
Nice. Yeah. I mean, opportunity.
And dude,
So,
those deals, off market deals, are are really where you get good deals.
right. So you're building out an industrial space and you're going to build a spot for Portland Chimney and then you're going to lease the other spaces, correct?
Portland Chimney was my dad's business, so my
Oh,
business, Portland Fireplace and
okay.
Chimney, and that's kind of the main thing, is they never really did any install or interior type work.
So what's your business?
Portland Fireplace
Oh, fireplace and
and
chimney.
Chimney.
I
Yep.
see. I see. Okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
Portland fireplace and chimney. That you're going to put your headquarters and your trucks and all your stuff there.
Yep.
Then, like, how big of a
Showroom.
space will you operate out of?
So it'll be 7,000 square foot footprint, 4 stories.
Nice. So like 2,500 or well, is it like 4 stories, but each is a real story, or you just have that kind of height in there?
So the max height for the zoning is 45 feet.
Uh
And
huh.
so we're gonna dig out for the basement, is gonna be like a big parking garage underneath. And then
Nice.
the main street floor will be kind of the showroom, storefront, and then office space, and then another level of office space above that. So it'll be like, a corporate warehouse building.
That sounds awesome. Love
Yeah,
to see as you go along, man. That kind of stuff's very inspirational for people to see, what somebody else is doing out there. So don't be afraid to share, your progress and your plans because we need that. We need that level of sophistication, that level of business acumen in our industry to help it one survive, but two to thrive and get bigger. And we
absolutely.
have to, like you said, the guys that were there with the Oregon group, they're mostly chimney sweeps. Well, there's very few of those people left that in this industry are just chimney sweeps. Most everybody has brought on construction skills, masonry skills, appliances, all those other things that you do too. Like I think you said you really focus on that. Can you talk about when I talked to you before about like almost being a craftsman, kind of what you look for in your crews?
Yeah. So a guy who says he can lay 500 brick a day, you don't want him.
Why do you say that?
Because fireplace construction is about purposeful movement.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
want to waste energy. You don't really even, need to break your back, really. It just needs to be very well organized and executed.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
if you do it that way, you get a quality installation that lasts a very, very long time. And
I
I've been
think.
fixing other guys' work, I don't know how many times. It's just like the ground is cracked again, and oh, we just had him do that, or blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, so I figured it out. I was like, okay, well, how much bonding adhesive do I need to add? How much fiberglass reinforcing do I
Mhm.
need? How thick does it need to be? What does a flue need to be, grouted with? How does it need to be supported? And it's like just the modus operandi is cut corners, support flue tiles with flashing, or just like all these shortcuts. And I was just like, I'm not doing that kind of work. I'm
Well,
gonna
when
that I
you
can't
have to
do
deal
that.
with with the seismic part of that, what does that add to what does that add to the chimney that we wouldn't have here in Tennessee?
So truly seismic chimneys are integrally reinforced with rebar from
Hmm.
the footing all the way to the top of the chimney. So if it's a single flue, you got 4 sticks of half-inch rebar going all
Mhm.
the way through the thing like a spine. And so if you go through an earthquake and it starts jumping around on you, typically you'll see this shearing happen where you get all these staggered cracks going through the brick, and the rebar and wire and all of those steel components embedded inside of the masonry prevent it from shearing and buckling and falling over.
So when you embed it, are you embedding it um, vertically or horizontally?
Both. So number 4 rebar is half-inch rebar that
Mhm.
goes down the flue liner or outside of the flue liner, between the brick and the flue liner, from the top all the way around the smoke chamber. And then horizontally, we use number 9 wire. Every 16 courses in the bed, in the horizontal bed joints, you've got number 9 wire laid down
Really
on the brick, and then you put the mud on it, and then you lay the next brick on top of it. Um,
interesting.
then the last bit is the straps. So at the elevations of the uh, floor structure, the joist, you're going to have these straps that go into the mortar joints of the chimney and hook around the vertical rebar members. And the
Mm,
straps come into the building, and you bolt those into the joist with through bolts, nuts, washers. That's seismic.
really? Well, I had no idea. Thank you. Thank you for the education. Because I'd seen like when we put together like isocurn and some of these prefab uh, concrete chimneys, they have holes down the corners
Mhm.
that you can put rebar down. But I never knew that you were supposed to also then strap it back to the building. I
Yeah.
always just thought that was. And then on those, I don't know how you would put the wire between. uh, Is that different for those modular masonry fireplaces?
Well, you're talking about the firebox. The isocurn is just the box.
Well, I'm actually talking about the flue block that comes with it.
Oh, okay. Is there holes in the block that line
Mhm.
up? Yeah, so yeah, so they could epoxy those in, but as far as strapping to that, yeah, I don't know. There
Yeah,
must be some type of way to notch a hole in the block
right.
where you,
Interesting.
yeah, where you
Not
can.
to go down too much of a rabbit hole because like I'm interested, but not everybody else may be. Got a couple other nice Merry Christmas from Louisville, Kentucky. Merry Christmas from New Hampshire.
Merry
And
Christmas.
then Charles Wellet, I believe. I'm not sure if he's just saying hi or hello. Welcome to the show. Also, questions for Lewis if you guys have them. So let's go back to guild membership and association membership. Um, I find that for me, it was the fastest way to grow the business was to become part of associations, guilds, certifications, education. Basically,
Yeah.
education was the key. And how do you see that play out? What's your goal for the for the guild that you're in?
Yeah, so kind of, I guess it's been an interesting experience. I got comfortable in the guild, and then I started talking, and I couldn't stop talking. And then
Well, tell me what you mean. Like you started complaining?
no,
You started
well,
saying what? Like
I started
asking
saying, well,
questions?
hey, I started saying like, well, why don't we do it this way? Wouldn't this be better? Or like, well, why do you do it that way, or whatever? And so I asked a lot of good questions, and then the old guys were like, hey, you should be the vice president.
You got to be careful in those meetings because when you have a problem, they're like, "That's a good point." You're on the committee, or now you're assigned to fix it. So
Yeah. So they motioned me in to be the vice president. And so the vice president's role was to go over the NFPA and create a 100-question exam on the NFPA code.
okay,
So I did that for 2 years, and then they liked that. They liked the attention to detail that I put together in the tests. It's not easy. I mean, it's
yeah, oh God, I
a
know.
lot different than like a CSIA exam. It's really like NFPA spec, clearance to combustibles, all that. Really understanding the clearance to combustibles and interior wall and thicknesses and all that stuff. So they liked that. Then they decided that they wanted to motion me to be the president. And so that role has been organizing the events. So 4 years now as president, organizing multiple conventions, and with my wife, she's clearing her throat. Courtney Lee, she's the secretary of the Oregon
Thank
Chimney.
you, Courtney. Thank you for your support. We all have our supporters that are right
She
there. We have to have a lot of help for sure.
she is a true outlier. Let me tell you
Mhm,
what, that lady, she works. Holy
mhm.
smokes! I mean, just to keep up with me, yeah. So, but she she's so selfless too. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like she
So
gives.
she helps in the guild.
Oh yeah,
Just
she's
does she actually have a position, or is she just there to help?
no, she's the secretary. She's
Okay.
the secretary, and she really does a lot of the scheduling for the events and kind of reaching out to the vendors. And my thing is just kind of like I guess this is what we should do, and then she helps me execute it.
So what's the biggest challenge in the guild faces? What do you guys typically guilds they've been actually getting smaller in all guilds in all areas. It's not just chimneys. They typically are not growing. What Well, let me ask you, there's a question here that may follow into that. So Nicholas Guy, he's second generation chimney guy too. Um, and so he asked, what was one of the biggest things the older sweeps taught you that made a major difference in your business? And this is part of the guild, right? These are guild guys passing on that information. So what was some of those nuggets that you got?
Negative pressure.
Uh,
Really understanding negative pressure and how it gets created, why somebody's fireplace doesn't draft, whether it's their furnace or some other type of fan system that's stealing air from the fireplace so it can't work.
mhm.
um, yeah, there's a couple old guys, Wayne DeMore and Grant Darrow, who
I know Grant, knew Grant. Grant passed, didn't he?
did he? I
I
didn't hear.
might be wrong. If Grant listens, please tell me. I'm
there's
sorry.
there's been a number of guys who have passed.
Yeah, I know Grant. Yeah, I knew Grant.
I
Mhm.
don't think Grant has yet. But yeah, so they would just, do little napkin drawings with me and sketches, just to get me to understand the physics aspects of chimneys. And
So it was really the heart of a teacher. Those guys came in there. They didn't see you as competition. They didn't see you as an adversary. They wanted you in. They welcomed you in, and they brought you. They want to give of their knowledge, and
yeah, well, and
I
that's
find that very true in all guilds, associations. Groups of people are in this industry, especially, are really wired that way.
yeah, yeah, and it was very nice to experience that, and just have such support. A lot of them now are passing away and retiring, and so new membership is one of our challenges. But the last year we really had a great turnout at our convention.
Yeah.
And got guys coming down from Seattle and Idaho and all these different areas that, we really never saw anybody from before. And that really happened because of the new website that we built. I didn't build it, but I
Right.
said we need to beef up our website so that we can have some type of a presence online to generate, new interest. So last year it was really cool. Yeah, we had guys coming down from Seattle, making big donations to the organization. One of the auctions is really, really funny. So we have the auction, we auction off all these things. And so one of the auction items was me to come to their business and teach them how to do roofing and masonry counter flashing. And I put up
Nice.
pictures, of some really nice jobs. And it just started binning it up. It was like $1,500 or whatever. But the guys from Seattle, they just kept going up and up and up on it. So I was like, wow, that makes me feel
Yeah.
pretty good.
Well, there's a big need for, there's a lot of people out there. I'm one of them that does business training, and there's technical training, like CSI has a week-long school and stuff, but there is a need for more technical training, hands-on. Somebody come into your business. As these businesses grow, it's harder to take them places. So traveling and training is a very needed thing. I mean, in SureFire alone, two of our guys, that's what they do. Jim Brewer, he was on in ride alongs today in companies. Alan Rush was in trucks today, helping companies sell. Jim was helping to be safe. There's definitely a big call for guys riding along or doing what you're doing. I know that's not your business. You offered it as a thing, but it is a needed thing. And I think education, I think what's going to happen is this industry grows, the education piece just keeps growing because nobody knows how to do it. There's
Yeah.
so many codes around it. This education piece has to keep growing, and there's a thirst for it. I remember several years ago, guys like, there's enough education out there. Why is everybody talking about education? We don't need another thing about education. Well, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And I really haven't seen much education that was bad. I may have a different opinion on it, but it was valid. I mean, I've been to one or two classes like this person is full of crap, but other than that, 99.9% of them, they're good.
Yeah.
So do you teach as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the other things I've been doing on YouTube is just our weekly safety meetings at the office. I do a lot of tech training with my guys, and that's huge. Ongoing education, constant education. School's never out because there's always one new
I love that.
detail that
School's
connects
never
the dots.
out.
It's like there's might be just this one little thing that's hanging you up from really understanding something, and defining those words and really understanding what they mean is what it takes to get to the next level. And a lot of people don't like to use a dictionary, but it's as simple as Google now. What is the definition of,
Yeah.
and just using that as kind of how to learn or how to teach anything. Uh,
So with that, you said it's on YouTube. Is that YouTube like a private channel for your company, or do you just put it on YouTube?
yeah, it's my Portland Fireplace and Chimney channel, and we've got like safety minute, like we'll have a safety meeting and I'll do like a little tutorial with my guys, like this is how we mix fire clay when we're building a firebox, or all the different ways you can mix fire clay or refractory cement, and
I'm going
the
to put
thermal
this
down.
as a banner across the bottom. So it's Portland Fireplace and Chimney Channel.
Yeah, Portland Fireplace and Chimney on YouTube.
Place and Chimney.
So the beauty of that is, the internet now with YouTube. I mean, you can learn so many different things, and there is a lot of great guys on there doing different techniques with fireplaces and chimneys, and that is really helping a lot of people accelerate their education. Um, so that's kind of how I found you. I saw you on here with Meredith,
Oh,
and I was like, oh wow, these are the leaders, in the industry,
the old guys, the graybeards.
and I gotta get involved and say what I can see, you know,
Yeah.
um, because
Yeah.
that's really what we have to offer everybody, is everybody sees different things.
Well,
And
you guys are all, I've said this a bunch, you guys to me are better than we were. Clearly, you're way far ahead of where we were at the time. And you guys have to take it over, right? You guys have to do this. And there's several of you that are. and I love seeing it. And it's like, the first generation guys ran it as far, there's a time horizon everybody
Evolution.
has, and
Yeah.
we got to hand it back. And you guys are running fast. You guys are running so much faster than we ever did. And it's exciting. I love to see it. And there's a lot of just great energy. And, you taking that on, taking the trade and taking the craft so seriously. When I hear you talk, you're so craft oriented and artisan oriented. I love to hear that, but also business minded. So that's a rare thing. Most of the people I talk to are one or the other. They're like business, business, business. The craft is on the side, or the opposite. Too much craft. They never get the business straight. They can never grow it or scale it. So I love hearing your plans and your mentality toward both things. And
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
yeah.
I really appreciate that, because I put in full effort. I am a craftsman. I really like to approach a job to do it in a way that looks like the original craftsman did it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
that's,
you mentioned that, like almost like an architectural approach, I think is
yeah,
what you said.
yeah, architectural preservation.
Mhm.
I hate it when the mortar doesn't match on a chimney. It's
Yeah,
just,
me too.
ah,
Yeah, me too. And you hate it when it's so obvious. Like for me, I have a lot of crews out there, and we have mortar matching, and we have things that we do, but then somebody grabbed a different bag or didn't pay attention, and or it just wasn't matching for whatever reason from the beginning, and we just kept going. I'm like, what the? So that's my own problem. But
hands
so
learning.
what's that?
So hands-on learning. I mean, we do this at the OCSA convention. We'll have a couple classes that are outdoor, hands-on, where we literally mix mortar, lay brick, do flashing, real hands-on demos. So it's not all just classroom stuff. We get everybody involved with tools and the material, and get them to touch it and feel it,
Yeah.
and really kind of like even experiment with it, like light a flue tile on fire, and get an understanding of the material science of a chimney. Like, what happens to it if it is wet and then you heat it up?
Yeah, steam. What do you guys have a facility that the Oregon Guild owns or that you operate out of, or is it
No.
just different locations?
Yeah, so we rotate to the 7 different regions, and of Oregon. There's, they're all broken up, and so depending on the year, the regional rep will help my wife Courtney kind of organize the convention, and so we'll stay at a hotel or a convention center, or whatever.
Yeah. So that's tough to do hands-on in some of those convention centers.
Well, a lot of times there's fireplaces that need something done to them at
Yeah.
the hotels and these different
Yeah.
little places. So there's a cool place in Cottage Grove that had like all river rock chimneys. And so we put in like a couple gas inserts there and did some crowns and stuff. And then
Yeah.
other stuff is like light a dryer vent on fire that's full of lint.
You know, if people don't realize how flammable dryer vent lint is, a quick story. I've told it before. One time, my guys were under a house, and the dryer vent had been pumping into the crawl space for years. So
Yeah.
we get there, we're like, this dryer vent is just like 20 years of lint underneath in the crawl space, right? So we're under there. We're like, we got to reroute this. We had to knock a hole in and break and all this. Well, my guy's under the house, and he's putting all the hard pipe together to get it out, and the helper from the outside pushed the termination cap in from the brick, and then he was under there, putting it together, and his flashlight died, and so he'd been, just there's a full of, I mean, he had full respirator and everything on it because it's just nasty, and he lit his lighter to see. He lit it, and it went, "Ooh." I mean, the whole underneath part of the house was on fire instantly, like a gas fire. It caught every wire was on fire, every top of every ductwork, every cobweb, but it instantly lit the whole thing. And then it went out, but there was little fires everywhere. So he was going around crawling, smashing the little fires. burnt his whole face up, burnt his arms, like all the hair, everything was. And then so he got it out. He goes up to the customer. He goes up to, he doesn't really want to tell her what just happened. He just about burned her house down. And
Hey, you need some new vapor barrier.
right. so, so she said, "Do you smell something burning?" He's like, "Yeah, we had a little thing down there," and he was singed, and he was up. It was like, uh, but to your point, I'm glad you light dryer vents on fire because people do not realize how flammable those damn things are. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so learning opportunities, recognizing your learning opportunities is a really important thing too. Like
yeah,
whenever it comes to like a quality control issue on a job and a customer has a question or maybe an issue with the job, a lot of guys I've noticed they defer from answering that callback
what do you
or
mean?
well, like they don't want to confront it.
Mhm.
So they'll, give an excuse of why they can't be there or whatever or this and that. And when there's a quality issue, a lot of times there's something very valuable to learn.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's if I could say, something that separates me from my peers is that if there's ever a confrontation or some type of a quality control issue or issue with a job, I am there right away to
mm,
figure out exactly what it is because I want to learn.
yep,
That is the value of the business is you have an opportunity to learn when you do something wrong. Hopefully it's not that big of a deal, but you fix that problem and you carry it with you
yeah,
to each and every next house. And
yep,
that is the value that you have to offer the next customer
yep.
is all your experiences. So don't shy away from those situations out there, guys. I mean, just confront them, be willing to help, be willing to admit that you don't know something, because as soon as you admit you don't know something, you have the opportunity to know it.
Yeah, well, knowing is the enemy of not of growing because if you feel like you already know something, you're not curious anymore. And
Right.
so staying curious and staying not knowing is one of the benefits. I mean, it's one of the reasons I like doing this show. I like listening to you talk. I want to learn and I learned from you tonight. I mean, I know a lot of stuff, you know a lot of stuff. Man, let's get together and help each other out. Like that's the spirit that you're looking for in your guilds and in your heart that you want to pass on and I feel very close to that same thing. Let's help each other out. We don't need to beat each other up. Shit, this is hard enough. I'm sorry you got kids in the background, but
Well, yeah, and I feel like on the West Coast, there's really not enough chimney sweeps. So that's really why I wanted to get involved and start really teaching people, is because I got to this point where it's like I can't do all these jobs.
oh
You
well
know,
no,
there's no
I
there's
mean
no there's no way that I could get to all these houses, and I need to be able to gift what I know to everybody else out there so that all the customers and families can have the same level of high quality service. And that only happens, if I share the information that I know.
well, and also you having competition and more chimney companies in your area help because it just drives up the knowledge, it drives up the advertising, it drives up the need. You're never going to get hurt by a chimney company or a big chimney company coming to your area. It actually drives up it always raises the tide. It's now if a bad company comes in and they're cheap and they're doing bad work, it might take from you initially, but then it comes back tenfold when you're fixing all their work. Like it might be a temporary hit, but it will come back in spades if you stay in business and do good work. And I know
Yep.
you agree with that completely.
Completely. So just this last year, we had to tear down an entire fireplace all the way to the ground that had just been rebuilt.
Oh gosh.
And the craziest part was that it passed all building inspections.
How did it do that, but it still need to be torn down?
So they added a gas insert on the upper floor. And by adding that firebox, it choked down the flue for the basement
Right.
fireplace.
Right. I've
So
seen that.
went from a 12 by 12 flue to an 8 by 4. And every time they built a fire downstairs, smoke just started billowing out into the house. They didn't rebuild the firebox. They didn't rebuild the hearth. They kind of tried to like half do it.
Right.
And they passed it, but from all the inspectors. They tricked all the inspectors. Luckily, the homeowner was an attorney. And so she did her deal, and I'm pretty sure she got her money back. But yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
had, as
It
we,
happens.
yeah,
Yeah. And again, we've got a lot of contractors building chimneys that shouldn't build. And we have a lot of people working on chimneys that shouldn't. And it ends up generating a ton of work for all of us that are, we take our craft seriously.
yeah,
Chuck Roydhouse says, remember the Faber College motto, knowledge is good. Yeah, we all believe that.
is that a buffalo?
That's his buffalo. So that's his motto, or that's his like logo
Signature.
guy. Yeah. So we have another Merry Christmas, everybody. Well, so we just got a couple more minutes before we close out. Any messages you'd like to give to the industry? Any words to the younger guys like you and younger that are trying to build a business? I hear you got a young family there, but you guys are still super busy and giving back to the industry. I respect the heck out of that. So what would you want to tell the industry and the guys that are coming on like you?
Um, don't be afraid to learn something new, you
Mhm.
know. And the best way to teach yourself something is go in the backyard and start playing with it.
Mhm.
Um, just like if you want to learn how to build chimneys, go get a bunch of bricks and a bunch of mortar and a sheet of plywood in your backyard and start building columns.
So on the other side of that, that's the technical side. What would you tell them about business?
Business,
80/20 sales and marketing. Who wrote that book?
I don't even know. Perry Marshall.
So what you're saying is read.
What I'm saying is read. Yeah, read a lot, absorb as much as you can, look for opportunities just nonstop.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're
chimney
everywhere.
chimney sweeps are entrepreneurs, and you have to take every single opportunity that presents itself, because each one of those chances is a chance for you to learn and grow and offer more value, um,
Yeah.
each year going forward. So with 80/20 specifically in business building and marketing, it talks about how 80% of your income comes from 20% of your leads.
Right. hmm
So it
And they,
really,
they use that principle in almost everything. 80% of your work comes from 20% of your workforce,
it,
and this
it,
that goes, it's a very good fractional thing. So in that, does it help you identify what that 80% comes from?
well, I mean, not necessarily. You kind of have to be self-aware in that aspect, but just understanding the laws of 80/20
hmm
and how that reflects into your time in your day.
Yeah.
Because, everybody wants to make this amount of money or that amount of money, and they get paid this per hour or that per hour. um, but really, we all have the same amount of time, in each day. And
Yeah.
if you break it down, it's your attention that is most valuable. So if your attention is on other things than
Yeah. Your
creating,
effectiveness,
yeah,
how effective you are is really the difference. I work around a lot of people that are busy. They're not very effective. What they stay busy with doesn't move the needle. And when you stay focused on what moves the needle the most, everything can change and be whatever you want it to be. But a lot of people, I have a friend of mine in mind. He's like, I always call him, I'm covered up, and he's never gotten anywhere. I mean, he's covered up doing the same thing he's always did. So, well, man, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's about our time. I'll close out the show, but thank you for joining us. Uh,
pleasure.
Roydhouse threw in one here. He said, tracking all numbers and time evolutions will reveal the 80/20. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
right. That's right.
And then we have unicorns are majestic creatures. I can't agree more. I have my
I've been
whole,
called
I
a
mean, I got my, you
called a
can't see it, but I
unicorn.
got my whole team unicorn thing in the back. You're correct. So, all right, man. Well, thank you. Have a good night, man.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
All right, guys, that's our time with Lewis. Fantastic guy. Love his message, love his vibe, love what he's trying to do out there. Please subscribe to his YouTube channel. Give him some support. And sounds like he's really doing all the right things and very a very conscientious next generation chimney guy. And I'm excited for him. So that's our time for this year. We will not be. It'll be New Year's before you come back. Have a Merry Christmas. I will say this before I close out. When my guys start to get burnt out, this happens a lot this time of year. And they're like, I've got all these jobs to do and all this. And I tell them, I said, you don't have 4 jobs you don't have 4 chimneys to do today. You got 4 families to take care of today. You got 4 people that are 4 families they're depending on you to make sure that you did this job right. And that when they light that fire, they're not in danger. And so I need you to take and I'm saying this to my guys, I need you to take it seriously every job. Don't get burned out and try to get back as fast as you can. Take every job seriously. Take every job that you do have a family there that is depending on you to do a good job and do a good inspection and have good reporting and not just get done and get to the next one and run or brush up it and get out of there, get your money and go. So with that being said, that's how I got in this business. My house caught on fire Christmas Eve when I was 12 years old from a fireplace, and we were burning the newspaper, burning the dried tree parts in there, all the wrong stuff. And it was like 1980. I think it's 1980s when that was 1979, a while ago. Sure enough, thing caught on fire, and it caught our attic on fire. And now that I know what it was, we had a clearance to combustibles issue and probably broken flue line, and it got out through the mortar and caught the attic on fire, and then caught the roof on fire. Nobody was hurt, but it made me realize how serious this can be. Ruins your whole Christmas and fire department and everybody, and everything goes right to crap. So take it seriously. Have a Merry Christmas. Appreciate all your support this year. The last question from Justin Fels says, what was the channel again? And I had it posted right there. It's the Portland Fireplace and Chimney channel on YouTube. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you later. Bye.